I'm going to be comparing the Secret Garden franchise to the Hunchback of Notre Dame franchise. These two are certainly similar because they both started off with a book that was then adapted into film multiple times. The biggest difference, however, is I have seen all the different versions of Secret Garden. The 1987 made-for-TV movie Back to the Secret Garden, which is a sequel to that 1987 movie, and then the 2020 version, the 1993 version, as well as the black and white version from 1949. When it comes to Notre Dame, I've seen the 1996 animated version from Disney, as well as the direct-to-video sequel to that movie, but I've not seen the rest of these Hunchback movies, which includes a French movie from 1957 and Australian-American movie from 1982, black and white version from 1923, then a movie from 1939. When it comes to the highest score for each franchise, in the case of Secret Garden, the 1993 version has the highest score of 89%. When it comes to Notre Dame, the 1957 French movie has the highest score of 96%. Notre Dame wins here. Then when you look at the lowest score, with Hunchback, you have a 22% for Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. When it comes to Secret Garden, the lowest score is a 38% for Back to the Secret Garden. So Secret Garden wins this round. Then when you look at average, Secret Garden has an average of 69. Hunchback of Notre Dame has an average of 71. So Notre Dame wins here. Then when you look at gap between lowest and highest score, Secret Garden has a gap of 51. Notre Dame has a gap of 74. Secret Garden wins here, and thus it's a tie heading into the final round, where we're going to look at my personal opinion. Honestly, I'm surprised that the 1996 animated movie was put out by Disney, because this seems like a pretty dark movie for Disney to put out. I mean, there's lighthearted moments, sure, and you could definitely say that gargoyles coming to life and talking to Quasimodo seems pretty lighthearted for a movie that is otherwise rather heavy. You could certainly say there's a tonal inconsistency there. Yeah, I think things could have maybe been better if the gargoyles had been cut out, or at least been trimmed down. Though I will say, when you look just at this first movie, there is dark headcanon that can make things better if you actually choose to believe that Quasimodo isn't really talking to gargoyles that are alive, that he's just imagining them in order to convince himself he has people to talk to. It's actually a psychological coping mechanism because he's stuck in this cathedral under the thumb of the horrible Frollo, who is, in my opinion, one of the most rotten villains that Disney has ever put in one of their movies. Why is that? Well, because he's someone who's in a position of religious authority, but we see that he not only does he abuse his authority for selfish reasons, but he also abuses and gaslights poor Quasimodo. He just treats him in a way that just makes you go, ooh, it makes your skin crawl to see this sweet guy, Quasimodo, who is being told that you are ugly, you are a monster, everyone else is a liar, I'm the only one you can trust, everyone else will hate and despise you, I'm your only friend, the only one who you can rely on that won't hate you. Ugh, it's so sad to watch. And also, we see Frollo do awful things, but he has convinced himself that this is what God wants him to do, which is pretty scary. And man, that song he sings, Hellfire, it's one of the scariest songs that I've ever seen Disney put into a movie, because it's about Frollo saying, either Esmeralda will have me, or she will burn in hell. And man, the imagery here also is pretty dark, and you have a character who is not at all willing to admit that anything is his fault. It's always someone else's fault. We literally hear him sing in the song, "It's not my fault, I'm not to blame, she's responsible for putting these thoughts into my head." Ooh, yikes. Now, when you think about the starting point of this movie, man, it's pretty intense, because Frollo is just about to kill Quasimodo as a baby, but then he decides not to. And also, we literally see Quasimodo burn a building that had people in it. And we see that Frollo was so bad that even his captain of the guard is like, no, this is wrong. I am not going to kill innocent people. And thus, he ends up not working for Frollo anymore. No, man, it is so satisfying when Frollo dies at the end because he is so rotten. Overall, I think the story here works. I like the way this movie looks. I think the actresses are giving really good performances. I think it's interesting that you have a character, Esmeralda, who isn't a Christian, but yet demonstrates the values that are really important to Christianity, as she actually shows compassion to Quasimodo. And while her and Quasimodo don't romantically get together by the time the movie's over, you can tell that she absolutely is Quasimodo's friend. There's absolutely no ill will whatsoever. When you get to Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, I thought, this is actually a smart way to continue this story. It makes sense. Quasimodo is no longer under the thumb of Frollo. He's not stuck in the cathedral anymore. Things are certainly better for him, no doubt about that, but he wants a lady who will actually love him romantically, which he, heartwarmingly enough, ends up finding by the time the movie's over. Admittedly, sure, you have the cliche liar revealed moment, but I don't think that makes the movie bad. I like how you have this lady who does actually like Quasimodo, who sees his value and appreciates that, but at the same time, she's working for this guy that just constantly reminds her that, hey, you stole from me when you were a little kid. I could have turned you in. I didn't. I've been treating you so well. He's just taking advantage of all these things in order to get her to not leave him. But fortunately, she ends up doing that by the time the movie's over. So you have this lady that has been working for a long time with this guy who actually is a con artist who's pretending to run a circus. He's using that as a cover in order to rob people. We see that she's actually a good person who fortunately ends up breaking away from him and actually assist by the end Quasimodo, Esmeralda, and the captain to arrest this guy so that there's justice. I actually quite enjoyed this movie. Now, when it comes to the Secret Garden franchise, I would say most of these movies are pretty similar. Not a lot of them really do much different. I think the story here is an interesting one. I like how that's about this girl named Mary Lennox who lost her parents during the partition of India, and so she's sent to the manor of this guy Lord Craven, who's actually her uncle. And then she ends up learning that Craven has this son named Colin who thinks that he's really sick, who's rather entitled and spoiled because he thinks that he's going to have a lump on his back, that he's going to die. But then she reveals to him, no, that's not the case. You're not going to die anytime in the near future. You're not actually as sick as people around you are saying. So Colin ends up being much happier by the time the movie's over. Mary also meets this boy named Dickon, who really has a connection to the animals. He has a rather strong connection to them. All these kids learn about this secret garden that has magic to it. And also we learn that the reason why Lord Craven is so shut in, the reason why he doesn't see very many other people, why he tends to keep to himself, is that he's never been able to get over the fact that he lost his wife. He's just been feeling that grief for so long. He locked up the secret garden because it's too painful for him. So he's never been able to actually properly move on, even though it's been 10 years. But by the time the story's over, he actually starts to heal. He actually moves on. I think that's pretty powerful. Something that a lot of people can relate to. Now, I do like that the movie Back to the Secret Garden actually does something a bit different, because we see it, oh, now Mary Lennox is an adult, and Colin Craven is now an adult. The two of them are actually married. Then Mary ends up bringing over to the manor this new girl who also learns about the secret garden, who meets all the animals there. When it comes to which franchise I prefer, well, I could choose Secret Garden because I've seen all these movies, but on the other hand, they're pretty similar to one another, not really doing much different. With Hunchback of Notre Dame, it seems to me like these movies aren't exactly the same. They do things that are different. I mean, obviously there's similarities between them, but it seems like they're different. So I think for that reason, I'm going to choose the Hunchback of Notre Dame franchise. That'll wrap things up for this video.